This is Coach Lee, and we're working on speech anxiety in all its forms. And we are talking with Walid and Sana, who are the parents of Mika, who is 6 years old. And they live in Lebanon, and that's great. And their son Mika stutters, they told me, on 70% of his conversations. And they tell me further that their son has noticed his stuttering, which is shows he's very bright. I think a lot of times people 6 don't, but he's not complaining about it. That's good. You know, I've written you so many things about this already that 80% of the people who start stuttering as young as Micah has outgrow it. So there is a very distinct possibility that if you don't do anything, you'll simply outgrow it. So are you wasting your time? No, I don't believe you are. And it's because stuttering can be converted into a blessing. Most of the people with whom we deal end up not only not stuttering, but they end up being the best speaker in every group they're in. And as strange as that may sound, Micah can be a candidate for that sooner than later. I mentioned in there that if you're willing to spend the time and make some gains out of reading aloud, not only will it help his speech enormously, but it will also, he doesn't read yet at 6 years old, right?
Not much. He reads letters, but not books.
A little bit. Okay, so that perfect timing. It's a perfect timing to be doing a lot of reading aloud with him because it has long-term school benefits. And I know I have 8 daughters-in-law, and some of them have been very good about reading with their children before school. And their kids, go into school and they read several grade levels above where they are. And it's an advantage that seems to continue throughout the school system. And they end up being very good students, Phi Beta Kappa, several of them. And so they've, it's worked very well for them. So, and these are non-stutterers. So coming back to Micah and his conversations, basically, we don't talk about the problem to the child. We just basically don't. Unless he brings it up, then that's another story. Then we deal with it. But so what we would like you to do is learn to read aloud really, really well. And reading aloud is like everything else. It's like it takes practice, and the more we do it, the better we do it. Basically, the purposes of reading aloud, number one, when you read aloud to your son, he hears good speech. When you ask him to repeat what you say, what you read, he will hear good speech, because without doing anything, he will try naturally to imitate what you do. He will hear good speech. If he stutters, then we'll need to take a slightly different approach. Most stutterers can read aloud. Now, of course, I realize he's underage, but most under age 9 or so. Most stutterers can read aloud alone without stuttering. The worst stutterers, and that we like to get stutterers talking in their stutter-free zones. And stutterers, when they talk alone in the shower or when they're walking their dog, they don't stutter. If they're talking to a child age 5 or younger, they don't stutter. If they're talking to a relative, family member, they may not stutter. These are called stutter-free zones. Right now, your son doesn't seem to have any because he's talking fast and therefore stuttering. Now, one of the main reasons that he is stuttering is because he's talking fast. That by itself will create repeats. If I can't say it, that's the pattern. And repeating is among the easiest things to overcome. Blocks and silences are another story. But in any event, when he hears you reading aloud, he hears good speech. The problem is, if both of you don't pretty much talk that way, whenever he's present, he's going to hear bad speech from you. He's going to hear speech that's too fast, that's not well pronounced, and it's a little bit sloppy. So you want to set the best example you possibly can. So this is going to improve your speech. You're going, what are the elements? We have one of our crutches is called speaking like a king or queen, and it has 5 elements. The first element is we speak slowly. The second element is we pronounce all our words and syllables and word endings. You can say, oh, you're so slow, you're boring. Let's be boring for a while, at least around your child. And if you will do it pretty much all the time, it will be easier for you to do it when he's around. This will improve your speech. Slow down your speech. Pronounce all your syllables. So pronunciation. So the first element is slowing down. The second element is pronunciation. The third element is feeling, emotion, passion. And by that, we stress positive emotions. Obviously, when we express negative emotions, we invariably get in trouble. And we generally regret what we've said or done related to it. So we ask our students, and that includes you at this point because you're helping your son, or you're becoming a coach, really. But we ask you to do the same thing, to only express positive emotions with feeling and to withhold negative emotions as much as you can and clean them up and present them in a positive way. So when we say passion, we don't mean screaming, how dare you say that to me and blah, blah, blah. And, we don't mean any of that. We mean, what a wonderful day. And did you hear that song? And we mean being expressive in a positive way. So when we say feeling, I tell my students, if you can focus enough on your positive emotions, you'll never stutter. You never will. You won't need my 700-page book and all these crutches and all that. You won't need them. If you can really say things in a way that maximizes, be an actor and an actress on the stage. Can you do it, Sana? Can you really project yourself? And so that's very important. Positive emotion. That's the third element. And the fourth element is smiling. Oh my gracious. As you probably know, when you smile, it takes 12 muscles to smile. And when you do it, you send positive sort of endorphin type messages to every one of the 30 trillion cells in your body. Imagine that. When you smile, you light up 30 trillion cells. Plus, the listener gets lit up at some level as well. So when we smile, I have people who have beaten stuttering by smiling alone. One of them lived in Indonesia. And we got the smiling crutch from him. I was coaching him and he stumbled on smiling years ago, and 10 years ago. And we loved it. And so smiling is an incredible thing, but it takes thought to smile. I challenge both of you right now to smile while you're speaking. I challenge you to do it. Can you do it? It's not easy. You can't do it unless you think about it. And when you do it, you change your karma. There's nothing wrong with changing your karma. What do you think, Sana? What do you think? Do you think changing the karma is, what do you think about that?
Change my karma? Or
Yes,
would
you think that would be a good thing?
Yeah, excellent.
Do you think it would help? It could help your child?
Sure.
Look, Voltaire said most men lead lives of quiet desperation, but I say that we live life as we see it. Everybody has similar amounts of the glass is half empty or the glass is half full, and the three of us want to see it half full. Why not? It's no extra charge. And when we do, we're smiling. When we dwell on the half empty, we got a problem. So we want to smile when we speak. We want to tie smiling to our speech. It's not insincere. You say, well, I don't always feel like smiling. Well, perhaps you should. Voltaire said, laughter saves us from insanity. And his motto was laugh and make laugh. You know, you're funny, I'm funny. Your son's funny. The world is funny. It's full of tragedy and it's full of good stuff, but it's still funny. And we're going to see it that way because we live our lives in here. We don't live them out there. We live our lives in here. And when we control this, our lives take a much different shape. When we don't control it, we're like a leaf blown around like this everywhere. That's why we do mind training. At the beginning of my books, it says, at the beginning of all my stuttering books, I quote the same guy. The most important words in my books are not my words. They're the words of a psychiatrist, an MD, whom I knew in the 60s. Wow. His name was Frank S. Caprio. And he wrote, we have free choice to accept or reject thoughts. Nothing compels us to think anything except our own desires. So use your mental switch and dictate your thoughts. Dictate your thoughts. Believe that you can improve and you will. That is our message. We're going to dictate our thinking. And it's not easy. And it's a battle for me. I've been doing this since I was in my 20s. And does it make me perfect? Of course not. But what does it do? It makes me better than I would have been otherwise. You can take that to the bank. Now, getting back to speaking slowly, that's number one. Using extreme pronunciation, that's number two. Number three, thinking about the entire time you speak, I would ask you to be thinking, how can I say this like I mean it? And in a more compelling, interesting, exciting, joyful, friendly, instructive, helpful way. Why not? No extra charge. So it's a process of making our speech positive. And the negative things are still there, but we're going to find a way to say them in a positive way. So those three things we're going to do. And the fourth thing we're going to do is we're going to smile while we talk. Oh my gracious. Smiling. Yeah, we're going to do that. And that's a challenge now. I know that's a challenge. It's a challenge for me. I'm sure it's a challenge for everybody, including you. But we're going to try. We're going to try our very best. I ask my students, I say, listen, here, I want you to write down these elements in nice bold letters so you can't miss them. I ask you to write the word slow down and the word pronunciation, write that down, and then I write down passion. And it's positive emotion I'm talking about. I write down the word smile, and there's one other thing that's critically important to making our speech really good. Stopping talking. Stops. When we speak, stop. We insert stops. Stop. And the irony of this, stop, is that every time we stop, we bring the audience to us, stop. Silence brings the audience to you. If you lose the floor, you don't care, the speech floor. You will get it back soon enough. And when you do, stop. You're going to hold the audience, stop, better than those people who don't understand the value of stops. All our stops are at least 1 second, 1001. Some of them are 2 seconds. In a minute, I'm going to ask each of you to read to the remaining 2 of us, and then we're going to talk about the reading. And then I'm going to read a little bit, and then we're going to talk about that. And we're going to get a feel for how we need to read aloud to really get the maximum mileage with our child. Stops should generally be 1001. That's 1 second. After a few of those, 3, 4, 5, I stop for 2 seconds. 1001, 1002. And then I continue. And maybe after 10 or 20 or 30, I stop for 3 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003. I do this. I'm lazy like all other human beings. So if I'm not thinking about my speech, I talk too fast. I don't pronounce clearly. I don't think about passion. I don't smile, and I don't stop. So do I practice what I preach? Absolutely not. Do I try to practice what I preach? I do. And when I'm speaking to you or to a group, I come closer to adhering to my own rules. So basically, what you're going to be asked to learn is slow pronunciation, passion, smile, and stop. And I would ask you to put this on your phone under the cover on the back like this. So when you get a phone call, you can flip it over and you'll see this. And I'm gonna, do you tend to talk in the kitchen a lot? Do you tend to talk in the kitchen? Is that a place that you commonly have conversations? You sit around?
In the kitchen, yeah, frequently in the kitchen, in the living room.
I would put this in the kitchen, lean it up against something that you can both see. And
on the fridge, we can have it on the
just keep it where you are. Put it on your computer, put it on your phone, put it in your shirt pocket, put it everywhere, because you want to help Sana and Sana wants to help you change your speech to live by these rules. You say, this is too hard, it's not worth it, but it is worth it. Because not only are you going to help your child, you're going to speak so much better, and he's going to be so much better student and so much better person as a result of having had this problem. So it's a real win-win-win. And it's worth it, and it can be made into a game. It can be fun, it can be funny, and you're not being critical of each other. Now, with the child, I already wrote to you, I believe, that we don't correct bad speech. We don't say, don't say it like that. If the word is metaphysics, can't you say that? We don't do that. We go, if you're talking too fast, we hold our hands like this.
Yeah.
Easy. Nobody's upset. No one's, stuttering is not a crime. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody. It's just a human mistake. So what? We'll get over it. So we do this. Once in a while we go, ooh, 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 ooh. That's about the extent of our criticism. The way we correct things is by saying them correctly. He says, stuttering, and you say stuttering. He says, Singapore. You say Singapore is a wonderful place. You just use it in a sentence correctly, slowly, and ignore it. That's what you do during the day. Now, so you slow him down, take it easy, and if he misuses a word, you find a way to use it soon thereafter correctly, and he hears that from your lips. And now with the reading aloud, we're actually getting him to say things the way we want him to say them. Tiger, lion, elephant, etc. And recognize the object, recognize the word. You read it, he says it. You point to it, he says it. You applaud him, there should be whatever it is he wants to do or he wants as rewards for at least for a while for reading aloud sessions, reward him for doing well. I mean, verbally and otherwise. Stuttering in older children is caused by concern about what other people, in part, by concern about what other people are thinking. You're about them. Oh, I'm inferior, I stutter, and so forth. He's a little young for that. So he's just making mistakes because he's got a habit of talking too fast. And slowing him down is going to solve a great deal of the problem. When you read to him, he's going to hear your speech at its best. When he speaks and repeats what you say, he's going to hear his speech best at that time. All of this is cumulative because the reason stuttering becomes a habit quickly because we're used to hearing it. So as we slow down, here's the stuttering and here's the fluency right now. And as we slow him down, he's going to hear more fluency, and it will shift. Before long, it will shift completely. So now, having said all this, let's get to the fun part. Let's get to our reading aloud. This is so much fun. I love to read aloud. It's so much fun, And now, you're trying to, in all things that you read from now on and say, I want you to be an actor or an actress on the stage. I want you to sell it. I paid for my seat. I want you to make me happy that I came to hear you perform. You're going to sell me on what you say. Isn't that fun? Don't you think that's fun?
Yes.
So, what do you think? That's fun.
Yes.
I mean, it's fun. I used to sing and I was on the stage a little bit, and I only stuttered when I was off the stage. Anyway, so, okay, who's going to read the first paragraph for me?
Walid.
Yeah.
Okay. Reading aloud has become a true joy for me. I seize any excuse to do it, especially to read aloud to others. Perhaps I am a thespian at heart. Regardless, I love doing it, and no surprise, it continues to improve my speech because when we read aloud, we invariably hear our voice at its best. As we read aloud with feeling, we constantly improve our focus on our message and the positive emotions with which we deliver it.
Okay, on the whole, I'm going to say that was among the best first readings I've gotten from a parent. Bravo.
Thank you.
Sana, your turn.
Yeah, nothing begs to be read aloud more than poetry, a category that also embraces song lyrics. So please, please read everything below aloud. I have placed a few illustrative things to read aloud in groups. Miscellaneous readings, songs, poetry, while adding a section for those under age 12. I hope that you will enjoy reading them, as do I.
Okay, hold it. That was very good too. And I would say my general comment, well, which of you, Sana, what did you think of Walid's reading? Do you have any comments about his reading?
No?
Okay. Walid, do you have any comments about Sana's reading?
I mean, she read basically much, I mean, she read much slower than what she speaks, which is very
But
good.
she was still too fast.
She was still a
you,
bit fast.
you
Yeah.
were a bit fast too. You were a bit fast too.
Yeah.
Now, I'll read the first paragraph just to show you a little bit of a difference. But it's not that dramatic. I would say both of you did well. Reading aloud has become a true joy for me. I seize any excuse to do it, especially to read aloud to others. Perhaps I am a thespian at heart. Regardless, I love doing it, and no surprise, it continues to improve my speech. Because when we read aloud, we invariably hear our voice at its best. As we read aloud with feeling, we constantly improve our focus on our message and the positive emotions with which we deliver it. Did you notice any difference?
Yes.
Yes.
What difference did you notice, Sana?
It's more relaxing. It's not aggressive. It's light, musical. No?
Okay, that sounds good to me.
You gave more meaning to each word.
Yeah.
You emphasized
That's
words.
it. There you go. There you go. The words mean that words are not important, and stutterers need to learn that. Thoughts are important. Our brains pick our words in conversations. If we're writing a book or a speech, that's different. We labor over it and then we read it aloud and it's set. But a conversation, the brain does all the work in choosing words. Stutterers, if your son were 9 or 10, we would be talking about that more. It's focused on not the word, but what the word means. And Walid, you're absolutely right. And you are too, Sana. I hope it's musical somewhat, and it's certainly intended to show feeling. The words represent feelings, and I want to convey those feelings. I submit to you that no one can stutter who consciously focuses on conveying the feelings of everything that he or she says. You say, oh, it's over the top, it's too much, blah, blah, blah. Not right now, it's not. And to the extent you do this, both of you will become the best speakers probably you know personally, and it won't take long. And you'll be in your circles among the best. And people will even tell you that. They'll say, Sana, you speak so well. It's going to change. It's going to change. Read Counting My Blessings by Irving Berlin.
أنا بليش.
بس read it بس.
When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessing instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So, if you are worried and you can't sleep, count your blessings instead of sheep, and you will fall asleep counting your blessings. I think about a nursery.
That's enough. That's enough. That's good enough. That's a good point to stop it. It gets repetitive. Okay, that was good. Definitely an improvement. So now it's your turn, Walid. You read the same thing down there.
The same from the beginning?
Same, yeah, right at the beginning. When I'm worried.
Okay, when I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So if you're worried and you can't sleep, count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
That's good. Now, again, I mean, good job, but both of you are still
Fast.
too fast. Yeah. And you're going to say, this man is going to drive us insane because we're going to take forever to ask for the toast, you know. But look at it as fun. Look at it as you're learning to be a thespian. You're on the stage here for your son, and so you need to do it. You need to get this down. So, all right. So now I will do the same thing. When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. When my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all, and I fall asleep counting my blessings. I think about a nursery and I picture curly heads, and one by one I count them as they slumber in their beds. So if you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings.
Nice.
So what do you think about our slowing down and pronouncing our words and being passionate and smiling and stopping? What do you think about all that?
No, it makes a big difference to us to start with, and definitely for we'll see for Mikael, but I mean for Mika it's gonna be because we tend to speak very fast. Sana to start with, and myself as well. It's not, we're not pointing fingers, but just to say this is a fact that we tend to be very fast in speech.
And unfortunately, so does your son, and that's why he's in trouble.
Yeah.
So in order for him to have a good example, you've got to change, and it should be permanent.
Exactly.
We want you to enjoy speaking. We want you to make an event out of your speech. It's fun. We want you to enjoy it. And speaking slowly, lots of stops. One of the ways we beat stuttering with adults is we shorten the increments of words that they say at any time to 1 to 3 words or so, followed by a stop. Very short increments followed by stops. I remember coaching a 9-year-old girl in Canada, very cute. She should be on the stage. She's the oldest of 5 children, a very smart girl. She read my complete 700-page book at 9 years old, and she could answer questions on it. I was stunned. When she finished the program and she was speaking fluently, her name was Fiora, Fiora. And I said, so Fiora, is there any one thing that you can say contributed the most to your stopping stuttering? And she thought about it for a minute and she said, increments.
Wow.
Short increments of words. Now, Sana and Walid, one of the best ways that you can slow your speech is to think of it in short increments. Think of what you say. Think of what you say as 1 to 3 words or so between stops. Try to speak in short increments of words. Does my speech right now sound unnatural to you in any way? Does it? Does my speech sound unnatural right now to you?
No, it seems, I mean, if you feel it slightly slower, but it has a more impact, you know, when you, so
Exactly.
it has better, like.
Exactly.
Crisp.
In order for you and Sana to slow down, you probably need, the last element on here is stops, and you need more stops. More frequently, you need to stop. Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and they snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel. As every fairy tale comes real, I've looked at love that way. But now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go. And if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say, I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds. I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads. They say, I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions I recall. I really don't know life at all.
Wow.
Nice.
Beautiful, yeah.
Isn't it fun? It's a great joy to read aloud. It's fun. And you get to be an actor. You get to play any part you want. Go ahead and read that, Walid. Read At the Zoo for us.
Okay. At the zoo, there are lions and roaring tigers and enormous camels and things. There are buffalo, bisons, and the great big bear with wings. There's a sort of a tiny hippopotamus and a tiny rhinoceros too. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. There are badgers and bidgers and budgers and a superintendent's house. Intendant's house. That's why they made the separation. There are masses of goats and a polar and different kinds of mouse. And I think that a sort of a something which is called a wallaboo. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. If you try to talk to the bison, he never quite understands. You can't shake hands with a mingo. He doesn't like shaking hands. And lions and roaring tigers hate saying, "How do you do?" But I give buns to the elephant when I go down to the zoo.
Okay, Sana, your turn. You read it.
The same?
Repeat.
Yeah.
At the zoo, there are lions and roaring tigers and enormous camels and things. There are buffalo, bison, and a great big bear with wings. There's a sort of a tiny hippopotamus and a tiny rhinoceros too. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. There are badgers and bidgers and budgers and a superintendent's house. There's a masses of goats and a polar and different kinds of mouse. And I think there's a sort of a something which is called a wallaboo. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. If you try to talk to the bison, he never quite understands. You cannot shake hands with a mingo. He doesn't like shaking hands. And lions and roaring tigers hate saying, "How do you do?" But I give buns to the elephant when I go down to the zoo.
Brilliant, Sana. That was your best reading by far. You slowed down and you put some humor in it. It was great. Okay. I'll say it. There are lions and roaring tigers and enormous camels and things. There are buffalo, bisons, and a great big bear with wings. There's a sort of a tiny hippopotamus and a tiny rhinoceros too. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. There are badgers and bidgers and bodgers and a superintendent's house. There are masses of goats and a polar and different kinds of mouse. And I think there's sort of a something which is called a wallaboo. But I gave buns to the elephant when I went down to the zoo. If you try to talk to the bison, he never quite understands. You can't shake hands with a mingo. He doesn't like shaking hands. And lions and roaring tigers hate saying, "How do you do?" But I gave buns to the elephant when I go down to the zoo. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that a lovely thing?
Yeah.
Now, see, this is the kind of fun element. This is a game. It's a game for you. It's a game for your son. Everybody's going to have fun. And when you look through some of these poems, there are a lot of things for children. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of them that are aimed at his age group. So you may still want to go online and say things for 4, 5, 6, 7, kind of thing, and get even some more things that you think are humorous and that he would enjoy reading. And some of them may have drawings. As you leaf through these, you'll see some of these have cartoons with them that Mika may enjoy. This is your homework. It's all about transforming your speech and having fun with it and slowing down Mika and getting him interested in playing the reading game and having rewards and lots of applause when he does well. We don't necessarily mention anything about stuttering ever. Maybe we never do. I don't know. It depends on how he feels about it. And at this point, probably the less said, the better. We just want to learn to read, and we want to learn to think about the meaning of what we say. It's all about meaning, not about words. And when we think meaning, words take care of themselves. Our brain is much smarter than we think. Does any of this make sense to you? Do you think, well, are you on the right path here?
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot.
Okay. And I mean, try to make it a game of read to this is the game right now. We're going to have mom's reading to Mika, and Mika's reading to mom, and dad is enjoying, making some pictures for our family file. So what? He doesn't know the difference. And then the reverse, she does that. Oh, I don't want to do, dad is going to do this. And we're going to read about the bidgers and the bodgers and the bisons at the zoo. And so, off we go.
Excellent.
Yes. And it's fun. And way to go, Mika. Nice job, man. That's really outstanding work. As he begins to make progress, you've got to slow him down. That's half the battle for him. It's also probably half the battle for you. But you need these other things too. And he will too, but he will learn these other things without you talking to him about them. He will learn them from you. When you pronounce all of your words, he will too in time. He will too. So, because he's one of you, he wants to be part of the group. So, anything, Sana, you want to ask? Anything else you want to ask or say, or?
No, I learned a lot. I'm gonna start now.
Oh, I doubt that. I rarely met a girl that couldn't talk. And yet she does it as I do.
Excellent.
Okay, so, I mean, look, what I always tell my students is that beating stuttering I'm a coach. I don't play the game. The game is played by my students. You are my students right now. And it's how you play the game that determines what progress you make or don't. It's totally up to you. The more you can read aloud, the more fun you can have it, the better you speak all the time, the sooner you're going to see results in your child, period. And if you don't change much, you won't see much change in him. You've got to change, and he will change. And once in a while, a little bit, not constantly, don't drive him crazy. It's easy, you know. Mom can't understand when you talk so fast. You can say that. That's not criticizing him. You're criticizing yourself. You can't understand him. You know? So we're very easy on the criticism and heavy on the praise. You know, in a similar vein, I tell most of my students are 18 to 35. I consider anybody under the age of 40 to be a child by my definition. And I tell them so. And I would say that I basically tell them, you got to do 3 things to maximize your life, in my opinion. 3 things, just 3 things. It's not that hard. This is what I tell these students. Number 1, you've got to do your best at everything you do. Whether you're a street sweeper or a brain surgeon, it's not the point. The point is, did you do your best? When you do your best over a period of time, you can hold your head high. And if you don't, you never will. Secondly, you've got to be as loving as humanly possible to all humans and domestic creatures. When you're loving, you get love back eventually, or at least a lot less negative reactions. Being loving is the key. And the last thing, mind training. Every single day, we train our minds to dictate our thinking. And we have affirmations we work on with my stutterers, specific things they say, and everything's a little different depending upon the stutterer, the nature of his problem. But we have affirmations. It's auto-conditioning or self-talk. I used self-hypnosis for years. It was very, very helpful. Psychiatrists got me into that. It's very helpful. And I've been doing auto-suggestions or a little bit of self-hypnosis ever since. And it's saved me from insanity, you know, and it kept me pretty much down the middle of the road, more or less down the middle of the road. But those 3 things, what do you think about that, Walid? Those 3 things.
Yeah.
Do your best. This is also my motto. I mean, I say it to people. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. I say it. I mean, do your best. Be the number 1 in what you do. Not just to be number 1, just to do your best. Yeah. Not to be number 1 with arrogance. Just to do it best.
You know, Walid, I want to take the heat off him. I say, you don't have to be number 1 in the world. You're not going to be, probably. So what you need to be is your number 1. Life is not Walid versus the world. It's Walid versus Walid. And
that's what
Walid
I do myself.
Master Walid, he's going to have a great life. And Sana's got to master Sana, and nobody else can do it except Sana.
You know, I started at age 10.
And if she does, life is good. And if she doesn't, not so good.
At age 10, I decided I don't compete with other students. I don't compete with anyone. I compete with myself, and that's it. I'm my own competitor, you know, and that's it. I compete with myself because I want to be better self, you know.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure to meet you. And you're as close as I'm ever going to get to Lebanon, I think. And you're probably as close as you're ever going to get to Bermuda right now.
we might get lost. The airplane might get lost in the Bermuda.
That's right, the triangle.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a wonderful couple of weeks. Have fun with Mika. It's going to be a blast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Take
See
care.
you soon. See you soon. Thank you, Lee. Ciao, ciao. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.